Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all are doing well. And please remember to subscribe if you like the content. Now, I took a look at the RydeAlong show today, and it was pretty interesting. It was headlined, "I know the contract, and I prepared it, and Andy did not sign it." Now, the whole aim of the show seemed to be to discredit what Miss Jenny Simon had said about possible bribery and impropriety by Minister Andy Williams. There were a few gentlemen on the show tonight. One, Mr. Willie Joseph, who probably has at least 40 years of experience in public service, and Mr. Rodney George, who is supposed to be an advisor in the Ministry of Infrastructure, and of course the Chief Technical Officer, Mr. Blash. The whole premise of the show seems to be that because of the existence of certain procedures and structures in place when it comes to tendering of bids and procurement of jobs, that it was nearly impossible for Mr. Andy Williams to be bribed. They seem to suggest that because Mr. Andy Williams did not sign the contract physically, that it's nearly impossible for him to be bribed. They also seem to suggest, because of those very procedures, that Mr. Andy Williams, even if he was acting in capacity as being in charge of the Ministry of Infrastructure at certain times, whether it be temporary or not, that he does not have any pull or influence over what the permanent secretary does. Now, we must understand, first and foremost, that the ministers are actually overseers, directors of policy, and are basically in charge of these specific portfolios in the government. So to say that they do not have any influence in what is taking place is actually untrue. It is like saying that a CEO of a company does not influence a company because he may not do the day-to-day activities of signing that subordinates may do. Ultimately, he can influence what happens in the company. So that dispels that myth that they were trying to promote on the RydeAlong show. I was a little disappointed in Mr. Willie Joseph, especially a man who has decades of experience in the public service. And I'm sure Mr. Rodney George seems to have a lot of experience in what he does. I could forgive Mr. Blash. He's a little young, but these two gentlemen, to try to mislead, to try to give credence to what was being said on the show, is an abomination. To try to insult the intelligence of Grenadian people is just wrong, totally wrong. I don't believe that the gentlemen realize what sort of argument that they're putting forward. Because if they say, because of the existence of certain procedures and protocols in place, that Minister Andy Williams could not have been bribed or could not have engaged in any impropriety, well, this means that any allegations that has ever been leveled at any administration, whether it be the NDC administration or the NNP administration or the PRG administration or whoever, is null and void. Because, of course, there are procedures and there are protocols in place, so nobody in government can be bribed. It means that no government throughout the Caribbean and no minister throughout the Caribbean can be bribed. Because guess what? They all have procedures and protocols in place, so it's impossible to bribe these people. If you really look at it, it's a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of hogwash. So for Mr. Willie Joseph to associate himself with this sort of nonsense, it's a tidbit disappointing. Now, this is a gentleman who has worked for decades in the public service. So I know that he may have encountered and may have seen improprieties across the board. So to come on the show and to pretend that because there are procedures in place and there's protocol that no one can be bribed is just a bunch of nonsense. And it's an insult, literally an insult to the Grenadian people. It's a major insult to the intelligence. And I don't know the Mr. Rodney George, but I'm equally disappointed in him. And it's sad to be disappointed in someone you don't even know. In an advisory role, I would think that he would have had some major experience in doing what he's doing. So to pretend that it's impossible that bribery can take place in the annals of government and contracts, it's just shocking. Totally shocking. Now, I'm not saying that the allegations, these wild allegations made by Ms. Jenny Simon, is true. It's very serious allegations. And I would think that for you to make that sort of allegation, you must have some sort of backup. No one makes such a serious allegation without being confident that they have something that will prove the allegation, especially with the existence of libel laws and the possibility for legal action. I mean, Mr. Rodney George said it well, and I said it in one of the programs that I did, that I don't think any minister would want to pursue the path of legal action because of discovery. What is quite possible, there you go, you start some sort of legal action. And again, you may be opening up a Pandora's box because there would be discovery. People's financials may get involved and things may be discovered that really and truly, not related to the case, may be discovered. So of course I could understand why, and Mr. Rodney George advised that it's best not to pursue legal action. So again, let me make it very clear. Whether the accusation is true or not is left to be seen. If it turns out not to be true, then Ms. Simon would have discredited herself. However, if it turns out to be true, then it's a major problem and a major scandal for the NDC. But to come on the show today and mislead everyone into believing that because there's certain protocols and procedures in place that a minister cannot be bribed, again, it's a bunch of hogwash. A lot of the times in the annal of politics, if you think that the allegation is so wild, then you should probably just dismiss it. If you make an attempt to try to defend yourself too much, then what it does sort of backfires, and it may give a bit of credence to what is being said. Either way, I could understand the impulse to try to defend oneself and one's government. But again, if, as they say, this is some sort of wild accusation, then if you go overboard trying to defend yourself and prove that this is not true, you end up harming your cause. And I don't understand why that people are so disrespectful every time Mr. Michael Batiste comes on that show. And to me, he seems to be a very rational and reasonable guy and always seems to ask pertinent questions. He made a very good point, and he said, look, if Mr. Andy feels slighted and he feels that this is so inappropriate, then he has recourse to legal action. He can say, okay, I can go try to get some sort of injunction and a gag order and possibly get some sort of cease and desist letter to Ms. Jenny Simon to discontinue tarnishing his name. That's an option. Until some sort of evidence is provided, it's a wild accusation. But it's a serious accusation. Well, only time will tell whether this remains in the annals of wild accusations and serious accusations, or whether it morphs into something a little more credible. In the meantime, attempts to hit back at this with such major force may be futile. On that note, guten Abend.